Meow. This fearless caddis is the raddest, has skills of the baddest, magic, slinging low status, practically unmatched, runs all of the gamut, in fact, he's a reference games and chatting, bent wizardly hatting, questing, stacking, napping, this cat witty banter, seeking kitty answers, roll 20 to scamper, tune in, and enjoy the ride, Brady, the RPG cat. Brady, the RPG cat.
Brainy the cat. Brainy the RPG cat. It's a kitty cat.
Hello, cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and variant humans, and every race class and subclass. Welcome to another episode of Bringing the RPG Cat. Tonight we are doing tabletop lore. We are reading a bit more of the Book of Ebon Tides, which is a 5e style manual that comes to us from Kobold Press. And, well, you know, I've had an interesting couple of days, is that those of you who have been following me on Twitter know that I have recently set myself up so that I can do mobile style video, and I'm going to be dropping mobile style videos on 3 websites, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. And slightly before I did that, I gave myself a slight model upgrade. I mean, nothing that is probably too noticeable. I'm a little bit more capable of, you know, looking in the left and right corner a bit more, you know, having a slightly more raised head and just a larger wide of berth when it comes to, yeah, looking in a full circle. That's one thing that I did. The other thing was, you know, I just kind of generally reset a lot of my settings. I used to have automatic blinking on, and now I don't have automatic blinking. Now the blinking is, based on my webcam. And, you know, my lip movements are a little bit faster. There was a time when I used to really tighten the lip movements because I was really concerned that the way that the lip movements were being registered were a bit too loose, and there was just a lot of situations where I would find myself with a very loose lower jaw, my mouth opening, but I think that I have fixed it, you know, by doing a lot of things. The other, probably one of the main ones, is that I've installed slightly more RAM in my computer, so the output from VTube Studio has become a little bit more real-time, and, you know, I'm allowed to loosen up with the controls a little bit. So, you know, now Brady the RPG Cat with 100% realistic blinking and lip sync, so there you go. That's pretty much what the update was. And, of course, take a really quick moment to talk about our sponsors. Please consider joining our Discord. Link is currently in the chat, and also, down below in the chat section. We have recently just added live alerts to the Discord, so if you want to know the moment that I am getting on, then check out the brand new live meow section in the Discord. Also, this stream is brought to you by Dubby Energy Drink. Say, Devin, you're not my Dubby automated message. Alright, Dubby, the affordable and flavorful energy drink powder. Follow the link or head over to dubby.gg and use the code BrainySetMe for 10% off your online order. So, beep boop, it is me. And also, this stream is brought to you by Streamloots. So, thanks to Streamloots, we now have a set of official Brainy the RPG cat trading cards. We'll go ahead and head over there and pay $1.99 for just a pack of 3. And, so, just a small amount of, $2 every once in a while is probably going to make for a significant amount of assistance trying to fund the overall channel, so I would really appreciate it if you did it. Sonar AF says, good day, eh? Good day, Sonar. Thank you very much for tuning onto the stream tonight. So I know for a fact that Sonar is on the Discord, so maybe they actually got the opportunity to join us because I posted the live notification on Discord. Well, this is hope, I hope. I may be the wizard of RPGs, but I'm also the king of wishful thinking. Alright, so thank you everybody once again for tuning in. So we were last left off on this page where we were beginning to describe the spells that are exclusive to this book, the Book of Ebon Tides. And so I'm going to go slightly back, and I'm going to just read some of the spells that we might have already read last week. But we're getting to the real good one, because we're getting to Ebon Tides, So it's very much like a Family Guy moment. He said it. We're going to, just read one of the many definitions that Ebon Tides is used in this book. So, I still need to set up that going live bot so you can have an alert when you go live that pings everyone. Yeah, and I also very recently gave you admin status on the Discord so that you would be able to do that. Of course, send me a DM if, things don't work out specifically the way you want, then I can fix that up a little bit for you. All right. So, Drafin's Bane of Excellence is a necromancy cantrip. Casting time is 1 action, range of 30 feet, and concentration up to 1 minute. A creature of your choice within range must make a charisma saving throw on a failed save the next ability check, attack roll, or saving throw in the target makes within the duration that results in a roll of 20, fails to have any effect. So effectively, yeah, it's just a spell that negates your d20. So you can have an alert when you go live that pings everyone. Yeah, I mean, it would be great, not necessarily to be doing that manually, even though, clearly I don't mind doing it manually. Alright. The number of times this cantrip can turn a natural 20 into a failure increases by 1 when you reach 5th level, 11th level, and 17th level. So, Drafin's Blunted Blade, 2nd level transmutation, casting time 1 action, range of 30 feet, and concentration of up to 1 minute. Your target's weapon rapidly corrodes. A creature from your choice within range that is holding a manufactured non-magical weapon in one of its hands must succeed on a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the target must roll all weapon damage dice twice and take the lower result. If the spell ends before 1 minute has passed, the target's weapon returns to its normal state. Otherwise, the weapon breaks down into a pile of rust or wood chips as appropriate. Bot, I type that stuff out all of the time. Well, I mean, you're a trooper, and I certainly would be a trooper if I needed to be a trooper, but Devin is a little bit more intelligent about these things, so I'm just going to go ahead and let him be a trooper. Alright, so Draven's Curse of Incompetence, 4th level Necromancy, casting time is 1 action, range is 30 feet, and duration is concentration up to a minute. Your target momentarily forgets its technical ability. Select a creature within range that has an intelligence of 3 or higher. Your target must make an intelligence saving throw or be unable to add its proficiency bonus to any ability checks, attack rolls, or saving throws it makes. An affected creature can make a new saving throw at the end of each turn, regaining its proficiency bonus on a success. If you cast a spell using a 5th level stop, the duration increases to concentration up to 10 minutes. If you cast it using a 6th level slot, it increases to concentration up to 1 hour. If you cast it using a 7th level slot, the duration is 1 hour. You know, just for convenience. Drizzle, Conjuration, Cantrip, Weather. You know, this is actually how nice a mod that Devin is that every once in a while he's willing to take a woe for me. Alright, so Drizzle, Conjuration, Cantrip, using Weather, a casting time is 1 action, range is 20 feet, duration is with concentration. You conjure up a very light rain, enough to dampen the ground in a 20-foot square, but not enough to drink or put out a fire of any size larger than a candle or a match. If it's sustained for 1 minute, the ground is wet to the touch. If it's sustained for 10 minutes, the affected area is slightly muddy or slippery, though not enough to impede movement. In freezing weather, this may generate a coating of thin ice. And finally, Eventide, a 7th level evocation. So yeah, you really have to earn this one. Range 500 feet, casting time 1 action, duration concentration up to 1 minute. You generate a wave of shadow matter at a point on the ground that you see within range. For the duration, black winds and currents of shadow matter whip in a 100-foot radius circle centered on that point, modifying terrain and sometimes drowning creatures in that area. That area becomes difficult terrain. Each creature touching the ground must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the creature gains a level of exhaustion. When you cast a spell and at the end of each turn you spend concentrating on it, each creature on the ground in the area must make a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is knocked prone. The Eventide deals 30 bludgeoning damage to any structure in contact with the ground in the area when you cast a spell at the start of each of your turns until the spell ends. If a structure drops to 0 hit points, sinks into the earth, consumed by the Shadow Realm, any creature within the structure, when it sinks, must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 2d12 necrotic damage, is knocked prone, and is blinded for 1 round. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage and doesn't fall prone or become blinded. The spell can have additional effects depending on the terrain in the area, as determined by the GM. No more than 2 of the following effects can be the result of 1 casting of Eventide. Hills and hollows, ground rises or sinks throughout the spell's area at the start of your next turn. After you cast the spell, these changes take the form of a hill, a slip fault, a new cliff, or a hollow. A total of 1d4 such hills, slip faults, or hollows open in locations chosen by the DM. A hollow, slip, or fault that opens beneath a structure causes it to automatically collapse. A hollow or a hill can alter the flow of local waters, such as a moat, stream, or lake, and rivers, shores, and waters. Water in the area can adopt an old course, such as an oxbow, or be swept into a new one, starting at the start of your next turn after you cast a spell. Only one such water element can be altered by the casting of this spell. You cannot alter both a lake and a stream feeding it, for instance. Shadowmire, all ground in the area of the spell becomes Shadowmire. See Chapter 5 for the duration. The Elf Shot, first level enchantment, fairy type, casting time 1 action, a range of 60 feet, and concentration up to 1 minute. You pretend to shoot an arrow with a tiny bow. Make a ranged spell attack against a creature within range. On a hit, the target creature stumbles as if pushed 5 feet in a random direction. Roll a d8 and assign a direction to each dice face, and its speed is 0 until the end of its next turn. Until the spell ends, you can make the attack again on each of your turns as an action. Okay. Oh, it's a shove. Yeah, pretty much. It's a kind of a playful shove too. It's, oh, let me play the song on the world's tiniest bow and arrow. Yoing. Emerald Goblet. Okay, first level, Abjuration, Fairy type, casting type is 1 action, range is touch, components duration is 24 hours. You touch a drinking vessel and sprinkle acorn dust into it, which creates a shining green vessel filled with green potion. Any creature that drinks from the goblet is protected against shadow corruption for 1 day. The protection grants several additional benefits. You gain advantage to checks used to gather food within the Shadow Realm, and you gain dark vision to 30 feet. Fairy Toast, 3rd level transmutation, fairy and ritual. Casting time is 1 minute, range is touch, and duration is 8 hours. You and 5 other creatures make a toast and drink to the lord and ladies of the Fate Courts. When you cast a spell, choose one of the following toasts, the targets of which must be within 10 feet of you. Commiseration, spellcasting participants can form or join a hag coven. While in the coven, each of the participants can share spell slots among themselves. Spells known by one member of the coven are known by all members of the coven for the duration and can be cast using any of the shared spell slots. Friendship, each of the participants in the toast becomes a fate for the duration, in place of their original type, and their status increases by 2d6 when they're in the Shadow Realm or the Bright Lands. So, I think in a previous episode we were discussing how, it's very likely for somebody who is not a Fae to actually adventure in this realm. Well, they have a little help in the fact that, they can do a toast, but the toast will last 70 hours at a time, so you definitely have to watch the clock on that one. Husbandry, for the duration, each of the participants can communicate with beasts as though they shared a language, though they gain no magical ability to influence them. And nightmares, for the duration, the first time a creature comes within 30 feet of one of the participants, they can make a wisdom saving throw or be frightened of all the participants for 1 minute. Playfulness, each participant grows gossamer wings, and for 10 rounds within the duration, they can gain a fly speed equal to their walking speed. A participant that is not standing on a horizontal surface at the end of each turn will fall to the ground. And restfulness, each of the participants gains advantage on saving throws against being charmed and cannot be put to sleep by a spell or another magical effect for the duration. Feast of Flesh, 5th level transmutation. Casting time 1 action, range of 30 feet, concentration up to 1 minute. A creature of your choice within range is overcome with a need to consume the flesh of its own kind. The target must make a charisma saving throw on a failed save. Its teeth become needle-like and it becomes able to pinpoint creatures of the same type as is within 150 feet by scent. On this turn, the creature must move towards the nearest creature of its type by the fastest means possible. If it is within its 5 feet of a creature, it must use its bonus action to make a bite attack against it. Your target has proficiency with its bite and deals damage equal to 1d6 plus strength. Oh, that was a turn. Yeah, so we discussed like 3 or 4 fairy type spells in a row, and now we are discussing spell-based cannibalism. If a creature of its type is not present within 150 feet, it must attack the closest living creature to it. At the end of its turn, and each time it takes damage, the target can make a new saving throw. The target has advantage on its saving throw if it's triggered by damage. On its success, the spell ends and the target is poisoned for an hour, unless it is a cannibal or comes from a cannibalistic culture. Fire Dance, 4th level illusion, elemental, casting time 1 action, range 120 feet, and duration concentration for up to 1 hour. You dance and twirl 2 sources of fire in a rapid pattern that leaves glowing trails. Creatures of your choice in the area that see your fire dance must make a wisdom saving throw. Any creature that can't be charmed succeeds on this saving throw automatically, and if you or your companions are fighting a creature, it has advantage on the save. On a failed save, a target becomes charmed for the duration. While charmed by this spell, this creature is incapacitated and has a speed of 0. The spell ends for an affected creature if it takes any damage or somebody else uses an action to shake the creature out of its stupor. And the spell also ends if you are incapacitated. Fireflies, 1st level evocation, fairy type. Casting time 1 action, range of 60 feet, and duration for 1 hour. You summon a large volume of fireflies to illuminate a 15-foot radius sphere for the duration. A few of the fireflies will settle on hidden or invisible creatures, making them somewhat easier to find. Attack rolls against invisible creatures in this area are no longer made with advantage, though attack rolls made with invisible creatures are still made with advantage, for only their general position is clear by firefly light, not their specific movements. All hide actions taken in this area are made with disadvantage. Flowering Transmutation cantrip takes 1 action, 20 feet range, and duration is concentration. You call forth for fragrant flowers from an inanimate object. If the object is held by an unwilling creature, that creature can make a dex saving throw to negate the effect. If it's sustained for 1 minute, the flowers give forth a pleasing scent and may attract bees, hummingbirds, or other pollinators. Gloaming, first level evocation, shadow. Casting time 1 action, range of 60 feet, duration is concentration up to 1 minute. Magical gloom spreads from a point you chose within range to fill a 50-foot radius sphere for the duration. The fading twilight spreads around corners. A creature with dark vision can see through its darkness, and any normal light can illuminate it. Ranged attacks made through the gloaming have disadvantage. If the point you choose is an object being worn or carried, the effect emanates from the object and moves with it. Completely covering the source of the gloaming with an opaque object such as a bowl or a helm blocks the darkness. If any of this spell's area overlaps with an area of light created by a spell of 2nd level or higher, the effect is dispelled. Grim Harvest, 6th level Necromancy, casting time 1 bonus action, range self, duration instantaneous. You reap the life force of a dying creature and use it to empower the next spell you cast. Your target must be at 0 hit points and must have died within the last round. If the target is dying, it must succeed in a Constitution saving throw or die. The next time you cast a spell, you gain 1d10 plus your spell casting ability modifier in temporary hit points, and can choose one of the following effects to inflict upon the target in addition to the usual effects of the spell you're casting. If you do not cast another spell within 1 minute of casting this one, the effect is lost. Clumsiness, your target speed is halved for 1 minute and has disadvantage of dexterity ability checks and saving throws. At the end of its turn, it can make a Constitution saving throw. If it succeeds, the effect ends. Fatiguing, your target must make a Constitution saving throw, gaining 1d4 levels of exhaustion on a failed save or 1 level of exhaustion on a successful one. Vampiric, you recover a number of hit points equal to half of the damage you were dealt. If you dealt damage to multiple creatures, you recover half the amount of damage you dealt to one of the targets. Or Weakness, the target deals the minimal possible damage on melee attacks if it hits for 1 minute. At the save of each of its turns, it can make a Constitution saving throw, and if it succeeds, the effect ends. Or Withering, you deal an extra 4 dice of damage of the same type as the damage dice of the spell, and damage dealt by your spell becomes necrotic damage. Grim Shadows. 3rd level Conjuration, Shadow. Casting time 1 action, range 60 feet. Components, concentration, duration is a concentration up to 1 minute. Sharp spear-like shadows fill a 15-foot square of ground that you see within range. For the duration, these shadows obscure creatures within the area, giving them half of a cover. When the creature enters the affected area for the first time on a turn, or starts its turn there, the creature must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take 1d8 piercing damage and be blinded until the spell ends. A creature that starts its turn in this area already blinded takes 1d8 piercing damage. A creature blinded by Grim Shadows can use its action to make a dexterity or wisdom saving throw, its choice, against your spell save DC. On a success, its sight will return. Hero Fable, 5th level enchantment, Fey. Casting time 1 action, range 60 feet, duration concentration up to 1 minute. You'll make a creature capable of great deeds like a storybook champion, and at the same time empower that creature's foes to become worthy of a hero's attention. A creature of your choice within range gains advantage on all ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws for the duration. At the same time, creatures that attack your target or that make a saving throw against your spell or effect originating from your target have advantage on their roll. If your target is unwilling, it must succeed on a charisma saving throw to avoid the effects. At higher levels, you can target 1 additional creature for every slot level above 6th. Alright. That's like inspiration on blood pressure pills. That is pretty crazy. And so, actually imbue your one of your party members with the ability to become a great hero. Hibernation, 2nd level necromancy. Casting time is 1 action, range is touch, and duration is for 1 hour. Inspiration, bless, guidance, all at once. It's the macho machismo spell. So, oftentimes I say that, I'm actually looking for the heroic formula. The heroic formula is already kind of figured out and compartmentalized in spell form when it comes to realms of the Fae. Yeah, Shazam. I'm pretty sure Shazam is markedly more powerful, but this still kind of sets the precedent for it. Okay, hibernation. You hum a soothing melody and discard a bit of bear fur, which induces a sophoric healing state in the next creature you touch. The target regains 1d6 HP and sleeps for 10 minutes until per each hit point regained. If the creature is unwilling, it must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or fall asleep for the duration. At the end of each of its turns, the target can make another Constitution saving throw. On its success, the spell ends on the target. Each creature affected by the spell falls unconscious until the spell ends. The hibernating creature takes damage, or someone uses an action to shake or slap the hibernating creature awake. Undead and creatures immune to being charmed are not affected by this spell. If you're casting at 3rd level or higher per slot, you can touch 1 willing creature per level to induce hibernation. Knife of Fate, 4th level necromancy, 1 action, range of 60 feet, and duration until dispelled. You speak a word of binding fate and point your dagger. A creature you see within 60 feet of you must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the target's fate is bounded to 1 random ally of the target. Any damage or condition the target suffers is instead inflicted on the individual for whom they are bound, and vice versa. A creature can be bound into only 1 other creature at a time. This effect lasts until either of the affected creature gains a level or are targeted by a heal spell or partake of a hero's feast spell, lifting the binding. Krail's Maggot. 2nd level necromancy, casting time 1 action, range of 60 feet, concentration up to 1 minute. A 6-inch long maggot forms inside a creature of your choice within range and begins to devour the target within. Make a melee spell attack against your target while in range. On a hit, the target takes necrotic damage from the maggot equal to 1d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier. As a bonus action on each of your subsequent turns, you can repeat the attack against your target. As an action on its turn, your target can make a melee weapon attack against the maggot with a weapon that deals piercing or slashing damage. The maggot has AC equal to your spell save DC and 8 hit points per spell level slot used to create it. If your target hits the maggot, half of its damage is dealt to the maggot, and the other half is dealt to the target itself. If the maggot is killed, the spell ends. At higher level, if you cast a spell using 3rd or higher, the damage increases by 1d8 for each slot above 2nd. Yeah. We are getting particularly rigor mortis with our necromancy spells in the Fey realm. Krail's Rot, 5th level necromancy, speaking of which. Casting time, 1 action, range of 60 feet, duration concentration up to 1 minute. You target a creature of your choice within range. With a wasting of the flesh, your target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or take 3d8 necrotic damage at the beginning of each of its turns for the duration. A target reduced to 0 hit points while under the effects of this spell has disadvantage on death saving throws. If your target dies, you can raise it as a zombie as a bonus action on your turn and use a bonus action on each of your subsequent turns to mentally command it as long as you're within 60 feet of it. If you command multiple undead as a result of multiple castings of the spell, you can command any or all of them at the same time using the same bonus action, issuing the same command to each one. You decide what action the creature will take and where it will move during its next turn, or you can issue a general command such as to guard a particular chamber or corridor. If you issue no commands, the creature only defends itself against hostile creatures. Once given an order, the creature continues to follow it until its task is complete. This creature is under your control for 24 hours, after which it stops obeying any command and you've given it. To maintain control of a creature another 24 hours, you must expend a spell slot of 5th level or higher before the current 24-hour period ends. If you cast a spell using a 7th level spell slot, your target takes 6d8 necrotic damage at the beginning of each of its turn and animates a ghoul if it dies. If you cast it using a 9th level spell slot, it takes 9d8 necromantic damage and animates as a ghost if it dies. Krail's Rupture, 2nd level necromancy, casting time 1 reaction, which you take in response to being grappled or swallowed whole. Range is touched and duration is instantaneous. You make a slicing motion with your finger and you immediately break the grapple of the creature grappling you by magically entering their body and exiting them on the opposite side. The creature must make a Constitution saving throw, taking 3d12 necrotic damage on a failed save or half as much damage on a successful one. If cast in response to being swallowed, you exit the triggering creature's body, regardless of how much damage you deal to it, and fall prone in a space within 10 feet of the triggering creature. So that's really just an easy way to get out of both grapple and swallow. At higher levels, you cast a spell using a spell slot of 3rd or greater. The damage increases by 1d12 for each spell slot above 2nd. Leilash's Arduous Shuffle. 7th level enchantment, fairy type, casting type 1 action, range self, is 20 foot radius, and duration is concentration up to 1 minute. All creatures in a 20 foot radius sphere centered on you that have fewer hit points within you when you cast a spell are compelled to dance a swaying side to side shuffle step. Any creature that can't be charmed is immune to the effects of the spell. An affected creature has its movement halved, cannot use reactions, and can make only one weapon or spell attack on its turn. At the beginning of its turn, a creature in the area can choose to take 1d4 levels of exhaustion to end the effect of the spell on itself. A creature that has gained levels on exhaustion from the spell can remove all of them after finishing a short rest. Leilash's Interminable Yawn. 5th level enchantment, fairy type, 1 action, range of self at 20 foot radius, and concentration of up to 10 minutes. You tell a meandering story that is so full of asides and digressions that the point of it is lost on its listeners. Any creature that is deafened or cannot be charmed is immune to the effects of the spell. Creatures of your choice in a 20 foot radius sphere centered on you are compelled to stop what they are doing and listening to your story. While they are enraptured by your words, they automatically fail intelligence, investigation, and wisdom checks, and their passive scores and the skills are considered to be 0 for the duration. A creature can choose to pull away from your performance, but must also succeed on a wisdom saving throw or fall unconscious for 1 minute. The spell ends if you're incapacitated or can no longer speak. Leilash's Irritating Kazoo, 2nd level enchantment, fairy type. Casting type is 1 action, range of self, concentration up to 1 minute. You play a long, droning note on a kazoo. All creatures within 10 feet of you and can hear you must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failure, a creature takes 1d thunder damage at the beginning of each of your turns and cannot cast spells with verbal components for the duration. On a success, the creature takes 1d6 thunder damage and cannot cast spells with verbal components until the end of its next turn. A creature that fails the initial saving throw can make a new saving throw at the end of each of its turns to end the effect. Lost, 3rd level enchantment, fairy type, casting type is 1 action, range is 30 feet, and duration up to 1 hour. Your attempt to confuse and confound a creature's sense of direction. The target must make a wisdom saving throw, and if it fails, the spell removes all memory of particular locations, landmarks, and routes for the duration of the spell. Even well-known ones, such as locations within a city, a home, and well-known hills and roads. A remove curse or greater restoration spell will end this effect. At higher levels, when you cast this using a spell slot of level 4th or higher, you can target one additional creature for each slot above 3rd. The creatures must be within 30 feet of each other when you target them. If you use a spell slot of 5th level or higher, the duration is 8 hours. If you use it for 7th level or higher, the duration is 24 hours. If you use a 9th level spell slot, the spell lasts until it is dispelled. Lost in Wandering, 5th level enchantment, fairy type, casting 1 action, range 30 feet, and duration is 24 hours. As with the Lost spell, and in addition to forgetting all navigation spells and landmarks, the target is compelled to wander off at a walk, attacking only in self-defense. After 16 hours, the target can make another wisdom saving throw. On a failure, the creature moves to an exhausted long rest. A removed curse or a greater restoration will end this effect. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 6th level or higher, you can target one additional creature for each spell slot above 5th. The creatures must be within 30 feet of each other when you target them. If you use a spell slot of 7th level or higher, a target experiences the spell for a second day, making wisdom saving throw after they wake up to continue wandering. If you use it for 9th level or higher, a target experiences the spell every day for a week. Lunar Transfer, 4th level Conjuration, fairy type. Casting time is 1 minute, range is 200 feet, and duration is instantaneous. This spell instantly summons a glittering moonbeam that transports one sleeping creature or object of your choice that you can see within range to a destination that you select. If you target an unwilling creature, it gains a wisdom saving throw. On a successful save, the spell fails and the caster appears in the target location. Instead, a transferred creature wakes up as soon as it arrives at its destination. If you target an object, it must be able to fit entirely inside a 10-foot cube, and it cannot be held or carried by an unwilling creature. The destination that you choose must be known to you, and it must be on the same plane of existence as you. Your familiarity with the destination determines whether the creature of the object arrives there successfully. GM rolls a d20 and consults the lunar transfer table below. The following definitions will help. A grove or a magic circle means hollow druid grove or a permanent teleportation circle, whose sigil sequence you know. Memento means that you possess an object taken from the desired destination within the last 6 months, such as a book from the wizard's library, bed linen from a royal suite, or a chunk of marble from a lich's secret tomb. Very familiar is a place that you've been to very often, a place you've carefully studied, or a place you can see when you cast a spell. Seen casually is somewhere that you've seen more than once, but with which you aren't very familiar. Viewed once is a place that you've seen once, probably using magic. Description is a place whose location and appearance you know through somebody else's description, most likely from a map. Or false destination is a place that doesn't exist. Perhaps you need to scry an enemy sanctum but instead viewed an illusion, or perhaps you are attempting to teleport to a familiar location that no longer exists. And that is highly probable if you're in the Fey realm, because I think we had already discussed how often the landscape generally changes. On a target, the target creature or object appears where you want it to. On an off-target, the target creature or object appears a random distance away from the destination in a random direction. Distance off-target is 5 miles times a 1d20 roll, though never more than half of the distance traveled. For example, if you sent somebody 250 miles and they landed off-target, and you rolled an 8 on the d20, then they would arrive off of the target by 40 miles. If you had sent them only 20 miles, they could not be more than 10 miles off the target. The GM determines direction off target randomly by rolling a d8 and designating 1 as north, a 2 as northeast, a 3 as east, and so on depending on the points of the compass. If you're teleporting someone to a coastal city and they would end up 20 miles out at sea, they could be in trouble. Or similar. Your target creature object winds up in a different area that's visually or thematically similar to the target area. If you are sending someone to your home laboratory, they might end up in another wizard's laboratory or an alchemical supply shop that has many of the same tools and instruments as your laboratory. Generally, the creature or the object appears in the closest similar place, but since the spell has no range limit, it could conceivably wind up anywhere on the plane. Okay, Lunar Transfer. This is, of course, a much less powerful and much more Fey-flavored version of teleport. It permits only a single creature to be moved by magic rather than 8 plus the caster. It cannot be used on yourself, and it requires a sleeping target. Generally, it's perfect for trickeries such as moving a sleeping creature out of the castle and into the woods, and failure against an unwilling creature may leave the caster in the place the target was meant to wind up. The caster in the place of the target, overall it is much less powerful with no use in combat, but lots of uses in longer narrative scenes and in removing rivals from a court or a place of power overnight. What the heck is this ability? Well, I mean, it's teleportation. And in teleportation, they are, just kind of factoring in the possibility that teleportation just might not work the way that we want it to. And so the table up above is exactly like the table that I just described, is that on these rolls, then you might have a better opportunity in order to either pass or fail the roll based on where you're attempting to teleport the person. It's fair. I mean, that seems fair to me. And so, and also, they just kind of have the slightly more fantastical Fae version of it, which involves, just teleporting somebody while they were sleeping through through sending moonlight. All right. Oh, speaking of which, here's another spell that involves sending moonlight. It's called Moonlight Sending. 4th level Conjuration Fairy type. Casting time 1 action on self. Duration is instantaneous. You exhort a friend to attack a distant foe. After the offering is made, make an attack roll to determine which fiend to summon. Oh, you exhort a fiend. Okay. On a 1 through 4, the sending fails. On a 5th, a wind demon. On the 9th through 12th, it's a erratic demon or a bearded devil. On a 13 or 16, it's a lesser lunar devil or a Vrock. The 17 through 20, lunar devil or a Hezro. And a 21 plus, an Alnar or Horned Devil. These are more than likely, just monsters that are exclusive to this book. And once we reach the monster manual section, we'll get a better idea of what specifically they are. Alright. Once summoned, you must compel the fiend to seek out a particular creature you choose by making a DC 10 persuasion check. On a success, the fiend slinks off to its target, usually but not always by night. On a failure, the fiend refuses and the offering and the bowl are consumed in the casting. The conjured fiend may find that the target is warded or inaccessible or simply difficult to find, whether because of invisibility or some other reason. In this case, you can make a DC 15 charisma check. On this success, the fiend returns and demands no further offering, reports its failure, and vanishes. On a failure, the fiend returns and demands another offering. If this is not immediately forthcoming, it will attack you. Obfuscate an object. Illusion cantrip, Shadow. Casting time is 1 bonus action, range of 10 feet, duration is concentration up to 1 minute. While you're in dim light, you cause an object in range to become unobtrusively obscured from the sight of other creatures. Since so many people are using shadow magic, this actually might be something that is very useful. For the duration, you have advantage on dexterity checks to hide the object. The object can't be larger than a short sword and must be on your person, held in your hand, or otherwise unattended. You can affect 2 objects when you reach 5th level, 3 objects in 11th, and 4th objects at 17. Ominous Wind, 2nd level enchantment. Casting time is 1 action, range is 60 feet, and duration is concentration up to 1 minute. Up to 3 creatures of your choice that you can see within range must make charisma saving throws. Whether a target that fails this saving throw makes an attack roll or a saving throw before the spell ends, the target must roll a d12 and subtract the number rolled from the highest attack roll or saving throw. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 3rd or higher, you can target 1 additional creature for each slot level above 2nd. Oro's Mark of Fate, 3rd level necromancing. Casting time is 1 reaction when you take in response to failing a saving throw. Range is self and duration is instantaneous. If you fail a saving throw, you can choose to succeed instead and then target the creature you see within 30 feet to suffer the effects of your failed saving throw. You still suffer any effects of a successful saving throw, if any. The new target is entitled to its own saving throw as if it were the original target of the attack, but with disadvantage. Polychromatic Bubble, 4th level, Conjuration, casting time is 1 action, range is 90 feet, and duration is concentration up to 1 minute. You create a shimmering multicolored bubble around a large or smaller creature and object within range. This bubble is a 5-foot radius sphere that has 10 hit points and an AC equal to your spell save. The bubble rises 10 feet in the air along with its contents up to 30 feet at the beginning of each of your turn. A creature trapped inside the bubble of its turn cannot see or hear anything outside the bubble and must make a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you and the bubble until the start of its next turn. A creature outside of the bubble that targets it with an attack must make a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you and the bubble until the beginning of its next turn. When you cast a spell using a level slot of 5th level or higher, you can create 1 additional bubble for each slot level above 4th. Porthos' Portal. 4th level conjuration, liminal, casting time is 1 hour, range is 10 feet, and duration is 24 hours. You conjure a portal or doorway that leaks an unoccupied space you see within range to a precise location in the mortal or fey realms, such as Midgard, the Shadow Realm, or the Summerlands that you have stud. The portal is a semicircular opening which you can make 5 to 20 feet in diameter, often cast under a bridge, an archway, or even under roots or branches of a large tree. You can orient the portal in any direction you choose. It has a front and a back on each plane where it appears. Traveling through the portal is possible only by moving through its front. Anything that does so is instantly transported to the other plane, appearing in the unoccupied space nearest the portal. The portal will last for the duration. Deities and other planar rulers can prevent portals created by this spell from opening in their presence or anywhere within their domains. At higher levels, if cast using a 5th level or higher spell slot, you can make the portal last for 1 week, or with a 6th level or higher spell, the Shadow Doorway is permanent until it's dispelled. With a Radiant Beacon, see below, or a Wish spell. Pratfall, 1st level conjuration. Casting time is 1 action, range is 60 feet. Duration is instantaneous. You cause a small bit of bad luck to befall a creature, making it look humorously foolish. You create one of the following effects. A small oily puddle appears under the feet of your target, causing it to lose balance. It must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or be unable to use bonus action on its next turn as it regains its footing. Tiny particles blow in your target's face, causing it to sneeze. The target must succeed in a Constitution saving throw or have disadvantage on its first attack roll until its next turn. Strobing lights flash briefly before your target's eyes, causing difficulty with vision. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw, or its passive perception is halved until the end of its next turn. The target feels the sensation of a quick, mild clap against its ears, briefly disorienting it. The target must succeed on the Constitution saving throw to maintain its concentration. An invisible force simply tugs on the target's trousers, causing their clothing to slip. The target must make a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the target has disadvantage on its next attack roll with its two-handed weapon, or loses its shield bonus to its AC until the end of its next turn, as it uses one hand to gather itself. Translation, it uses one turn in order to pull its pants back up. Only one of these effects can be used on a single creature at a time. Radiant Beacon, 5th level evocation, illumination. Casting time 1 action, range of self, duration, concentration up to 1 minute. A pillar of light falls from the air, filling the square you're in and the area within 5 feet of you. Each other creature in the area must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 4d8 radiant damage and is blinded until the start of your next turn. On a successful save, it takes half as much damage and isn't blinded. Undead and oozes have disadvantage on the saving throw. For the duration, a pillar of brilliant radiance shines around you and moves with you. It sheds bright light in a 10-foot radius and dim light for an additional 20 feet. The light is sunlight. The spell's light can be seen from a distance of up to 10 miles outdoors at night or 5 miles during twilight. So I think we're very, very close to the end of the spell section. Shadow Adaptation, 2nd level abjuration, Shadow, casting time 1 action, range of self, and duration of 8 hours. Your flesh and clothing pale and become faded as your body takes on a tiny fragment of the Shadow Realm. For the duration of the spell, you are immune to shadow corruption and have resistance to necrotic damage. In addition, you have advantage on saving throws against effects that reduce your strength or hit point maximum, such as a Shadow Strength Drain or the Harm spell. Alright. Shadow Portal, 3rd level Conjuration, Liminal and Shadow. Casting time is 1 action, range is 200 feet. Component, duration is 1 minute. You create a door in the nearest wall, cliff, tree, or similar structure. It is immediately bound to a similar door up to 200 feet away. The nearer door must be a place within 10 feet of you that you can see, when the distant door can be one that you can visualize or can describe by stating distance and direction, such as 100 feet straight down, or 50 feet to the northwest, and upward at a 45-degree angle. Once the door is conjured, you can take actions nominally to open and pass through the near portal, which immediately teleports you to the distant portal. Other creatures may do the same while the spell remains. The spell ends after the duration or when somebody closes the distant portal's door, as a bonus action. If it casts at 5th level, this can open a door to a Shadow Realm. This may require additional somatic or material components in order to specific to the road, and lacking those if the spell fails and it is wasted. Spider Song, 4th level Conjuration, Shadow, casting time 1 action, range of 60 feet, and duration is concentration up to 10 minutes. You sing a piping tune and conjure shadows into an enormous, ever-growing web. The area within a 20-foot cube within range is filled with shadows, and the area is lightly obscure and provides half cover to any creature within. You may create a new cube of shadows in range every other round so long as you retain concentration, in which case the previous cube disappears 1 round later. Cubes can overlap, but there is no cumulative effect from it. Each creature that enters the area or starts its turn in the area must make a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is incapacitated for as long as it remains in the shadows or until it breaks free. A creature incapacitated by the shadows can make a strength check each round against your spell save DC. If it succeeds, it's no longer incapacitated. The shadows can be removed from a single 20-foot cube with a daylight spell. Storm Door, 4th level Conjuration, Liminal and Weather, casting time 1 action, range of self, duration is concentration up to 10 minutes. Crackling with lightning, you teleport up to 120 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see. Each creature within 5 feet of both the space you left and your new space made a dexterity saving throw. A creature takes 1d12 lightning damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. Okay, this kind of rule of general intelligence, try not to depend on using a lightning in order to teleport. On each of your turns for your duration, you can use your bonus action to call out the lightning and open such a storm door, again targeting a different space with the door each time. If you're outdoors when you cast a spell, a storm develops within 1 minute and follows you. Under such conditions, the spell's damage increases to 2d12, and you can teleport up to 240 feet. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of level 5 or higher, a creature of your choice within 5 feet of you can teleport through the storm door with you. Accompanying creatures do not suffer lightning damage. Ugly Duckling, 2nd level enchantment, fairy type. Casting time is 1 action, range of 30 feet, duration is concentration up to 1 hour. One creature of your choice within range must make a charisma saving throw. On a failed save, the target has disadvantage on all charisma checks it makes, and anyone it speaks to is indifferent to them for the duration. If the target sees on a charisma check while under the effect of the spell, it can make a new saving throw to overcome this effect. At a higher level, when you use a spell slot of 3rd or higher, you can affect 1 additional target for each slot level used above 2nd. The Storm Door, Designer's Note. The spell is obviously inspired by effects more commonly known as Call Lightning and Misty Step, but it reduces the damage while strengthening the Misty Step element with a bit more range. Though it is not as effective as raw damage, it has a great many possibilities for battlefield movement, and it makes for a great escape mechanism for villainous spellcasters. Well, I hope that the villainous spellcasters never miss on catching it. Okay, well. Somehow I managed to, skip a significant amount. Well, I think I went a significant amount up. Alright. So let's see. Chapter 5. The Nature of Shadow. The foremost questions for many travelers to the Shadow Realm have to do with the shadow matter. Its malleable nature and how humans and other intelligent species survive in such a strange place. To natives, these questions are foolish, for the laws of nature may be different than they are on other planes or in the mortal realm. But the Shadow Realm is hospitable to those who take time to learn its ways, and this chapter will provide that foundation. It reminds me of the Sith, because virtually anything that would just be some kind of magical projectile attack in Star Wars is usually replaced by lightning. What is known for its occasionally warped echolocations with parallels in the mortal world or Shadow Realm also harbors twisted plants, animals, monsters, conditions of travel, and even strange laws of nature worth closer inspection. Turn your gaze to the mutable lands of shadows and pray you have a keen eye to see what marvels they contain. The moon, stars, and sky. The Shadow Realm has no full day and night cycle, and instead a perpetual twilight cloaks the realm. This dim, ambient illumination deepens into full darkness in the valleys and canyons that crisscross the land, and it is in sunlight, so creatures that suffer in the sun, including vampires, will endure it without difficulty. The primary sources of light are the two moons of the Shadow Realm, Selene and Lindar, which most inhabitants of the realm know as the feminine and masculine faces of Hecate, or sometimes as Hecate, and Kuprakesh or Leda. The moons provide enough light for the realm's rather pale, thin crops and trees to grow, and both have linked phases. When Selene is full, so is Lindar, and when Lindar is new, so is Selene. The stars are a handful of jewels, often cloaked in clouds, but when visible, they're just like stars of the mortal world, chips of pure brilliance, red, blue, and diamond white. The constellations familiar to umbral peoples are the dragon, the north arrow, the leaping salmon, the swan, the hunter, and the greater and lesser fox. The sky in the Shadow Realm is often cloudy or misty, but when from horizon to horizon, it is a richer palette than most. Black and gray, of course, but with overtones of mauve, violet, and deep blue. Velvety deep tones, sometimes even vivid orange and rich burgundy hues by the full moon. Its clouds are commonly gray or white, and uncommonly silver or blue, perhaps even luminous. Animals and encounter. The plants and wildlife of the Shadow Realm survive as one would expect from the surrounding terrain. Trees and undergrowth fill the dark forest, birds fly above and nest among twisted branches. Herd animals wander the plains, fish swim through the black rivers and the murky lakes. Most are entirely normal in their size and in their behavior. Some creatures native to the Shadow Realm are a dark reflection of counterparts in the mortal world, such as dark-furred squirrels and twilight purple deer with black antlers. Some are clearly warped and tainted. The owl-like but human mouse Strix Ghost glides on silent wings through dark forests. Shadowflay nobles capture and 10 flocks of steel-winged Eela, and the corrupted unicorn-like Shadowvar wander the woods and race across plains. White wolves, black bears, and even crimson-feathered hawks are common, thriving on a seemingly ready supply of pale field mice, the aforementioned black squirrels, and similarly shadow-hued prey. Far more than the odd creatures still familiar from within the Shadow Realm, the Gloomflower, the Glass Gator, and the Unhatched are all well-known threats, as are light dragons, black dragons, lantern dragonettes, and overshadows. Food and water. Finding fresh water presents a pressing challenge in the Shadow Realm since darkness flows through some waterways instead of water. This inky substance quenches the thirst of the denizens of the plain, including all those detailed in Chapter 2, but visitors from the Brightlands find it bitter and unpleasant. That said, the inky liquid can be consumed and provides refreshment, but it also carries the taint of potential shadow corruption. A few springs produce pure water, and sometimes a stream runs clear for a time before darkness fills it again. These precious resources are vital to those that haven't given themselves over to the plane's corruption, and they guard them viciously. As for food, Fruit-bearing plants yield bounty, and animals can be hunted for meat. Whether fruit or meat, food gathered in the Shadow Realm tastes bland to visitors and often hints at something unpleasant, such as a rot or mold. Ability checks made to forage for food and water by visitors to the realm are at disadvantage, yielding half of the normal amount of edible food or portable water. Brave or desperate characters can choose to forage as normal, but any creature who consumes food gathered in this way suffers exposure to shadow corruption. Dark water, black shadows that often... let me read this section first. The ancient animals still thrive. Fauna such as mammoths, enormous elks, ground sloths, saber-toothed tigers, and cave bears still thrive in the Shadow Realm. It seems that the dreams of the bearfolk keep them nearby, as they are most common in the moonlit groves, with occasional visits to dark forests, and open grasslands are where the civil elves and shadow fae certainly know how to hunt them. Many of these animal types are referred to as elders, such as elder elk or elder mammoth. They are considered especially worthy prey and are sometimes protected by will-o-wisps, witchlights, or other unusual guardians. Goblin tribes occasionally bring one to a court or to Fandaval as a curiosity or a showpiece. Okay, dark water. The black shadows that often pass for water in the Shadow Realm run swift and cold, so cold that no matter the surrounding terrain or climate, every stream and river and lake counts as frigid water. Worse, the spirits of things that died in or near the water constitute a separate hazard. A creature that starts its turn in dark water must succeed in a DC 12 strength saving throw or be grappled and pulled 5 feet deeper into the water by the hungry spirits. The grapple condition lasts at the start of the creature's next turn. The ghosts long to drag every living thing they encounter into the inky depths, and even watercraft provide uncertain protection against these spirits. A creature that drowns in dark water cannot be returned to life by revivify or raise the dead. More powerful magic such as resurrection is necessary in order to free the creature's soul. A few creatures of the Shadow Realm are naturally immune to the effects of dark water, including shadow goblins, shadow fae, river giants, and most fiends. As a variant, the shadow-touched beasts. Beasts in the Shadow Realm reflect the plane's unique nature. Ordinary beasts have dark vision out to 60 feet and are resistant to cold damage. At the GM's discretion, these traits fade away a week after the beast leaves the plane. Methods for entering the Shadow. Natives to the Shadow Realm need no help arriving, but the region is so popular with creatures with elven lands from mortal worlds and from the various hells in heaven, seeking souls lost in the Styx or powerful magical weapons to recharge with the arcane forces of the realm. The 5 principal methods for entering the realm are nodes, the planar river, radiant wells, shadow roads, and spells. Each of these is further described below. Nodes and portals. Many visitors from outside the Shadow Realm enter via a magical gate, a portal, or a node of some kind. On their home plane, these locations appear as doors, gateways, arches, standing stones, or arcane circles, which must be activated by a magical item, seasonal arcane sacrifice, ritual magic, or similar charging energy. Once activated, they remain open for a short period, allowing multiple creatures to enter at the same time. The planar river Styx. Travelers can and do float into the Shadow Realm from the Hells, from the roots of Yggdrasil, or from the other locations where the river Styx is known to flow. Charon's boatmen, various Yugalos, and even angelic guides have been known to point out the way to safe places to dock or beach. Excuse me. Radiant wells connected to the celestial plane. Glowing beacons provide a great deal of light, but the ability to use them to enter the Shadow Realm is limited primarily to angels, celestials, and good land creatures generally. The Fae, undead, and others consider them to be a hazard. Alright. The nature of shadow from the Book of Ebon Tides. While many wise souls pretend to know exactly what shadow matter is and how it is best distilled, shifted, changed, and locked into new forms, the truth is the primal matter of the Shadow Realm is complex, often chaotic, and different from the simple elements of other realms, such as fire, water, earth, and air. It is malleable in the extreme, making it more susceptible to shaping by the untrained. Primal shadow can be manipulated by a conjurer, illusionist, or druid, and sometimes the mere belief held by a prince or a fey child. In most cases, these changes give life to an object that is normally lifeless, such as a stone or a doll, purely through belief, and these changes last long enough for a birch tree to smile and bow, a cherry tree to blossom, a doll to wink, or a boulder to stroll down the lane. In a few cases, animation and form can be provided that last longer and have greater effects, but in almost all cases, these require a practitioner of the magical arts. Spells. Both plane shift and gate spells, which we've read about before, can bring a party of adventurers to the Shadow Realm. Some scrolls are created, especially by powerful Fae or ghoulish spellcasters, to bring new and entertaining visitors to the realm, and these are referred to as Shadow Portal Scrolls. Shadow roads, the most common way to enter the Shadow Realm is on the roads that connect the worlds. These Shadow roads are obscured and difficult to open for humans and other non-Fae. For the Shadow Fae, elves, gnomes, and others, opening the Shadow roads is much easier. Using them requires making a trip of several days to get from the Shadow Realm to the mortal lands, or vice versa. More details on this road is found later in the chapter. I love this concept. It has a name I don't know of, but would it be Shadowmancy, crafting something from nothing? Well, I think, yeah, the way that this book tends to refer to it has to do with, just kind of tends to refer to it as shadow magic or shadow realm magic. But, you know, it's a very, very fine line to say shadow magic or shadowmancy, which is basically a suggestion of saying that it's the magical control or manipulation of shadow. So if you were just to say shadowmancy, you would be saying virtually the same thing as shadow magic. Hazards of the Shadow Realm. While most of the realm is ordinary earth and forest, several elements of the Shadow Realm are unique to it, or at least far more common than elsewhere. These shadows and landmarks are described below. Doom Sand, similar in most ways to standard quicksand, Doom Sand follows the same rules for sinking and escaping. The Ashen Grey Slurry is infused with the nature of shadow, and it drains the resolve from those in its grasp. A creature that starts its turn in Doom Sand must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become despondent. When the creature finishes a long rest, it can repeat the saving throw, ending the effect on its success. Doom Sand usually appears in marshes and swamps, or in deserts as fine dust. The Ebon tides are enormous waves of shadow mire, of crackling shadow matter, a temporary wave of arcane power pulsating through a region and unmaking the land. When they affect a region, use the effects of the Ebon tide spell. You know, we had previously read that in chapter 4. Let me see. Hungry Gloom. Some areas of the Shadow Realm are places in the mortal world where the barrier to the Shadow Realm is thin. Develop Hungry Gloom. An area of Hungry Gloom appears particularly dark and grim, swallowing light. It's an area of light that overlaps Hungry Gloom, has its illumination reduced by 1 step. Dark vision cannot improve ambient light conditions in the area. Shadow touch creatures can see in Hungry Gloom as if it were in bright light. Leaden Clouds. Dark, heavy clouds oppress the spirit of those beneath them, serving as sort of a psychic weight. Creatures under a leaden cloud must succeed on a DC 12 Wisdom or Charisma saving throw to make an attack, cast a spell, or move more than a standard walking pace, though they can still defend themselves normally. Certain items such as Emerald Goblets and spells such as Aid, Calm Emotions, Enthrall, and Lesser Restoration, and even a Barbarian's Rage can negate the effects of leaden clouds. Radiant Wells. This form of well resembles a beacon of light to the surface, though it swallows up anything thrown into it. A radiant well is a planar link to one of the celestial planes, and it sheds searing bright daylight in a 60-foot radius around itself and up into the clouds. This makes them excellent landmarks for navigation, though their position can be shifted by ebb and tides and terrain manipulation. Any creature entering a radiant well falls for 1 round and then is ejected upward at a relatively high speed from another well within 2d 20 miles. For evil creatures, this increases to 1d 100 miles. The force of being ejected from the well propels a smaller creature up for about 30 feet before falling to the ground beside the well, potentially taking normal falling damage. Medium and large creatures are pushed up about 15 feet, and huge or larger creatures simply land at the edge of the well. Particularly large or active radiant wells sometimes inflict radiant damage on evil land creatures. These more active wells are sometimes used as node or more active wells when used as nodes or portals to celestial planes by fae, wizards, and clerics. The Shadow Mire. Usually found along the shores of ponds, lakes, and streams, Shadow Mire is a concentration of pure shadow matter that has eaten away soil, roots, and plants of a place and replaced them all with a thin layer of viscous purple and black goop. This resembles dark water and is indistinguishable from water at night. Leaves and reeds may float on it, and it reflects moonlight normally. However, stepping into the mire generates an immediate oversized wave that radiates from the creature entering the mire, knocking down all in its path. Any creatures within 30 feet that are smaller than the creature stepping into the mire must succeed on a strength or dexterity saving throw or be knocked prone by the wave. The creature in the center of the mire will be covered by the Shadow Mire as it rolls back to its point of origin, like the splash of an enormous raindrop. The creature must make DC 13 concentration saving throw or be knocked prone and unconscious. Some wizards can distill or conjure pits of Shadow Mire, and thus reshape a riverbed or undermine a bridge, for instance. Witch lights and will-o-wisps. The Shadow Realm is filled with lesser lights than that of moons and stars, wandering along with typically inscrutable aims. A white glow shines in the distance, offering a path or a sign of habitation, or simply zipping through the deep woods. Theirs are tiny witch lights and larger will-o-wisps, both of which create their own light. The witch lights are tiny shards of crystal, constructed creatures believed to have been made as friends or servants and companions to the Ancients of the Shadow. Only relatively powerful wizards know how to make them, but many roam the Shadow Realm on their own. Witch lights pursue their own purposes, guarding dangerous sites, helping travelers seeking out old runestones, or gathering at certain sessions to dance and blink in unison. Others tag along with strangers or for hours, perhaps driven by curiosity. Their appearance is still well known, but their goals are often quite obscure. Some are friendly while others guide travelers astray, and a few of them serve as familiars to wizards and sorcerers among the Shadow. Will-o-wisps, their larger cousins, are generally malign and capable of more damage in combat. They lead travelers to Doomsand or Shadowmire, and even use their attacks to sever boat lines or rope bridges. Shadow Corruption. The Shadow Realm threads its tendrils into places and creatures it can reach, tainting those that strike bargains with dark powers, linger too long in places infused with shadow, or even simply eat the wrong food in the Shadow Realm. This applies primarily to visitors, as the realm's inhabitants are wary and used to its dangers, though sometimes they also fall prey to them. Creatures conjured by shadow grow, distracted and withdrawn, shining light in all of its forms. At its most severe levels, the corrupted creature gives itself wholly to the Shadow Realm. Constructs, fiends, shadow fae, shadow goblins, and undead are susceptible to shadow corruption. Constructs other than the Gearforged or similar construct-like creatures lack souls, and darkness of another sort already claims this essential nature of fiends and undead. Shadow fae and shadow goblins have lived in the realm for so long, their nature has already been changed by it. Shadow corruption is measured in 6 levels. Never can give a creature 1 or more levels of shadow corruption, as specified in the effects in the following table. Level 1, Shadow Corruption. You have disadvantage on Wisdom and Charisma checks made against non-shadow creatures. 2, you gain dark vision up to 30 feet or increase existing dark vision by 30 feet. 3, you have advantage on Wisdom perception checks and attack rolls made while in bright light. 4, you have disadvantage on saving throws made while in bright light. 5, you take 2d radiant damage when starting your turn in sunlight. And then in 6, you become a Shadow Thrall. If a corrupted creature suffers an effect that causes shadow corruption, its current level of shadow corruption increases by the amount specified in the effect's description. A creature suffers the effect of its current level of shadow corruption as well as the lower levels. An effect that removes shadow corruption reduces its level as specified in the description, with all shadow corruption effects ending if all levels of a creature's shadow corruption are removed. For each week spent in the Shadow Realm, a susceptible creature must make a DC 10 Charisma saving throw. On a failure, the creature gains 1 level of Shadow Corruption. On a success, the creature resists corruption for the time being, but the DC of future saves for this made for this reason increased by 1. The DC returns to 10 when the creature gains 1 or more levels of Shadow Corruption, or when it spends at least 1 week outside the Shadow Realm. This brings to mind those creepy little stone golem things from Doctor Strange. Well, I tend to think that they're borrowing from a lot of different fictional sources at this point. Including, something like Dungeons & Dragons, which, has the Fey realm. But it is effectively using the presence of shadow magic as an explanation for why people tend to become lost to the fairy realm. Becoming a shadow thrall, for example, means that, you just become so corrupted by eating the food and drinking the water that you have to remain in the shadow realm. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to survive very well. Falling into dark water also kind of reminds me of the TV series Pirates of Dark Water, where the dark water was a curse, and actually entering into it and emerging from the other side meant that you're in another dimension. And in this case, that would mean that you were in the fairy dimension. And so this is particularly just kind of the rhythm that this book is obtaining. And we also know that this book is a spin-off of some of the other creative concepts that exist in other books by Kobold Press. And so, well, we don't know where the baseline fiction is, but knowing that the marriage of these two books, provides a much more stable and profound understanding about the Fey realm and how it'll work in a more specific 5e campaign. Alright. Shadow magic is dangerous for mortal creatures to wield since it carries the risk of shadow corruption. Whether any humanoid that isn't an umbral human, bearfolk, Dracul, shadow fae, or shadow goblin casts any shadow magic spell the next time it finishes a long rest, it must make a charisma saving throw with a DC of 10, plus the highest level of shadow magic. On a failure, the creature gains 1 level of shadow corruption. The gnomes, the elf-marked, and the elves make the saving throw with advantage. Shadow corruption can be removed in 3 ways. Corrupt a creature that spends a week per current level of shadow corruption outside the shadow realm. Reduces its level of shadow corruption by 1. If the creature casts or is affected by shadow magic spell during this time, the recovery time will start over. A dispel good and evil spell cast on a creature reduces its shadow corruption level by 1, or an emerald goblet can remove 1 level of shadow corruption each time it is used. Shadow Touch, a creature that is native to the Shadow Realm or that processes at least 1 level of Shadow Corruption, is considered Shadow Touched. A new condition, Despondency. A despondent creature gains the following flaw. I find it difficult to see how anything could turn out well no matter how hard I try. Why should I even bother? In addition, they are directly affected as follows. The creature has disadvantage on ability checks. The creature has advantage on saving throws against being charmed and disadvantage on all other forms of saving throws. And the column of motion spell suppresses the despondent condition for its duration. Lesser restoration or more powerful magic will end the condition. The condition of Shadow Thrall is considered Shadow Thrall is considered a denizen of the Shadow Realm and will not willingly leave. If forced to leave the Shadow Realm, the creature becomes despondent. The thrall's form becomes mottled with shifting patches of inky blackness. It automatically fails all wisdom, insight, and charisma checks, except for intimidation checks against a non-shadow creature. The thrall is considered charmed by any fae or shadow fae native to the Shadow Realm who has an intelligence or a charisma higher than 14. The charmed effect can be removed as long as the creature is a shadow thrall. However, a remove curse or lesser restoration spell will suppress the effect for 24 hours. Okay, traveling on Shadow Roads, the network of Shadow Roads grows, withers, and changes over the years. However, the experience of traveling on them is unusually similar, no matter who their maker might be. These roads are built on magic, protected by the Fae, the Bearfolk, and other road wardens, and provide swifter, more reliable travel than venturing the open land. In the Shadow Realm, open grasslands, forests, and other natural terrain is subject to change and warping, so the use of roads provides one of the few certain ways of getting from point A to point B. Though while these are more certain, they are still perilous, and travel comes with a number of possible dangers. Shadow Road Wardens. Various roads travel through the Shadow Realm are often quick and easy, especially when the owners of the lands nearby don't cast any charms or hexes to show a visitor's progress to hinder enemies. But at other times, bandits, enchantments, and natural or supernatural obstacles will prevent swift passage. And when these interfere with the regular travel of wagons, pilgrims, merchants, and noble processions throughout the realm, the road wardens are dispatched from the nearest court or city to clear things up. The minor chapter houses of the road warden stand in the courts of mice and ravens and the court of roses, as well as in Coramel, Dalliance, Fandival, and Merrymead. The shades of gnomes do not provide the road wardens near Sorias or along the more distant reaches of the western woods, but the Dracula legions perform a similar function within the rifts in the name of the Emperor. Shadow Road wardens are often veterans of courtly life who have been given a task after they tire of daily rituals, gatherings, and petty sites of Fae status seeking. They're often quite deadly warriors, enchanters, or rogues known and feared by bandits, satyr, vampires, and void cultists for their skill at sniffing out bandits. That's the plural version of satyr. S-A-T-Y-R, and then the plural version is S-A-T-A-R-R-E. Satyr. And void cultists for their skill at sniffing out bandits, road cutters, and various other plotters against the old roads. Road wardens are notorious tail spinners, but also delightful in the depth of their understanding of Shadow Road's tides and arcane matters. I didn't know there was a pluralized one. Well, there would have to be. There would have to be one, because it's plural. We're discussing a people, and those people sometimes need to be referred to in plural. So, highway robbery in the Shadow Realm. Frequent visitors to the Shadow Realm make it almost irresistible to attempt a highway robbery. A group of enormous bearfolk, a horrifying company of Darkhold soldiers, or a heavily armed shadow face stepping out of the shadows around a single traveler or even small group will often demand a troll or to deliver up a parcel to the road gods. While most travelers from the Bright Lands are willing and able to pay a small fee, sometimes highway robbers get much more than they bargain for. In these cases, they often scatter among difficult terrain on the other side of the road. Most non-native travelers are reluctant to leave the road, and bandits take advantage of this. Okay, 6 famous road wardens. Ambrosius Fairhand, a sable elf general who, tired of life in the court of Golden Oaks, leads a detachment of sable elves in an arena around the northern banks of the Styx. He is known for chopping off the hands of bandits, road coverers, and other miscreants found on the roads, always pronouncing it sentence performed in the name of Queen Valda. Hiller Vandagast, a Shadow Fae archmage who travels on a nightmare as a steed, and who keeps a small company of young Shadow Fae squires and apprentices. He guards the Eastern Queen's Wood and transforms criminals into toads, sparrows, and sometimes weasels. So this is once again another example of, how they tend to be playing with generalized lore. Nightmare is known as a specific black horse, which effectively leads people in Greek mythology to the land of the dead. And so, it probably has the exact same properties as the Grim Reaper. You only tend to see them if your own demise is extremely near. It also, particularly in some myths, known for eating things that normal horses can't, like poisonous nightshade, and thorny vines. So, in this mythology, they're using nightmare as more of a generic, is that just kind of describes a specific type of black horse that can actually be controlled by some of the people that are in the Fey realm. Okay, Gillian the Sailor, a shadow goblin once known as Fandival, saw something in the Sable Sea and vowed never to sail again. Known for using radiant magic against his foes, it is said that he once won and lost the crown of Infinite Midnight in a card game. Kay Greenleaf, a gnomish druid, serves the bearfolk and protects the trails and the paths to the north. Said to work with Arena and Alseed, though these are rarely visible when Kay questions the traveler. Taurus Bonesplitter, a Dracula captain assigned to service outside of a Great Gruul Rift, enjoys human and Fey company, but despises the bearfolk. Her crew of Dracul and human rangers protect the rather new ghoulish roads around the realm of the Rift. And finally, Garwin the Pure, a bearfolk paladin who travels as a humble but relentless defender of light and justice, is a road warden who lets nothing slide. Smugglers, necromancers, thieves, and simple gamblers may all be required to pay a toll or be carried off bodily to the court of justice at Merrymead. I kind of want to chill with these figures. Is that foolish? Well, in some cases it would be. So the way that this table works is to suggest that, if you come anywhere near a Feywild portal, you roll a die and you've run into one of these 6 people. And if it's Ambrosius Fairhand, then you really are in trouble because, he has a tendency to cut your hand off if he feels as though you might be the tiniest bit evil or chaotic aligned, which is probably not good for any party of 6 or more. Because, if you're in a party of 6 or more, there's a very good opportunity that one of you is a rogue, and if they are, then Ambrosius Fairhand is going to chop your hand off for that. Statistically speaking, yeah. So let's see. Travel times on the Shadow Roads. Traveling the hundreds of miles along the Shadow Road is fairly swift, but not instantaneous, and the better kept and better warded roads of the Shadow Fae, Bearfolk and Elves, are far swifter than roads elsewhere. For instance, it takes 1d3 days to pass from any major city with a Fae or Gnomish influence in the mortal realm, or the major Elven or Fae courts in the Shadow Realm. Travel from regions without Elves, Fae, or Gnomes often takes a bit longer, on the order of 1d6 days, and the known and functional roads are fewer and less well kept. Travel along a Shadow Road in the region of little to no magic such as wastelands, mage-blasted deserts, or the like can take 1d12 days. For enormous distances, such as across seas and oceans or across continents, travel time could be up to 1d12 days along a Shadow Road, still much shorter than the months or years that these trips would normally take. For creatures in the Shadow Realm, the roads are common enough for creatures from elsewhere. You can make an intelligence check at a -5 penalty for non-elves and consult a table to determine what, if anything, they know about them. Okay, Shadow Road lore. A 21. Well, I think it's a 20. I think this is a D20 table, but it does have an additional 21 plus in the event that you can roll a higher Arcana check. Okay. On a 1 to 5, it's not known how the Shadow Roads work. On a 6 to 10, Shadow Roads connect 2 points through magical travel. A spell or passphrase is often required to open one. On 11 through 15, the start and end of a Shadow Road are set up in advance, and the doors to them are never open very long. On a 16 to 20, the destination of a Shadow Road can be changed by only Fae. Otherwise, new destinations require obscure incantations or arcane tinkering. And then on a 21 plus, some Shadow Roads are guarded, and others will lead in only one direction. Okay. Sights and encounters on Shadow Roads, those from outside the Shadow Realm who travel along the Shadow Roads for adventure find the plains roads can be overgrown, chaos of hedge mazes, twisting passages, hollows, and delves. Each road may vary, but all are notorious for lacking wide vistas or straight paths. Travelers may take the path and wander at will, but once they attempt to go home, it takes them 1d3 days to find their way. Many have never returned, since those who step off the path sacrifice any protection that are offered by the Fae that built the road, or by wandering stones and waymarks placed by other hands. Shadow creatures, fiends, and celestials all use these roads for purposes of their own and dislike competition. In game turns, shadow roads are filled with dangerous encounters. More powerful adventurers will attract more powerful creatures. Fae and undead are common, as well as beasts of the night, marauding giants, and other shadow creatures. Additionally, the Shadow Fae guard some roads with their black stone keeps, from which they send their minions forth to prey on the unwary, or at least collect tolls in the form of memory filters, scrolls, or silver. Travelers using arcane highways do so at their own risk. Okay, so this next table is a D12 table relating to the River Styx, and we talked about the River Styx in a few earlier chapters. Once again, the River Styx, has to do a little bit with underworld mythology. Particularly is some forms of, I believe mostly Celtic folklore. People believe that the River Styx is the river that you cross in order to get to the underworld. And so in the event that you actually manage to get a River Styx ferryman, they will require some form of payment in order to cross the river, which usually includes silver. And the people who believed in this myth would usually close individuals' eyes using silver coins in order so that the people who depart into the other world will have the fare that they need in order to cross the River Styx. So, so this is the D12 table navigating the Styx. On a 1, the boat lands exactly where it embarked in the morning. On a 2, the ghosts plague the boat, annoying passengers with shouts and noxious mists and obscuring sight. 3, some coins or minor possessions, such as a rope or an amulet or a favorite pair of socks, go missing. On a 4, a member of the party gains a level of shadow corruption. On a 5, a member of companion, a familiar or a companion animal becomes ill and then must be carried off the boat. On a 6, a member of a party becomes partly transparent. Their bones are now visible. On a 7, their ferry slides into another plane of the GM's choosing, such as one of the hells, one of the celestial planes, or of a mortal land. On an 8, everyone aboard the boat is drained by travel and gains a level of exhaustion. On a 9, the life-draining power of the river inflicts 2d necrotic damage to each passenger each hour. On a 10, the boat will enter dark water and a water elemental will attack. On an 11, the boat travels without effort, guided by unseen forces, and all its passengers gain the benefits of a long rest. On a 12, one passenger has a vision of the afterlife and may have a premonition of danger, learn a secret from a ghost, or gain 1d12 temporary hit points from understanding the power of the river. Navigating the Black River. The Lord of the Rivers is Charon the boatman, and its followers are those who most often travel it. Safely and swiftly, just as the followers of the Shadow Fae pass most swiftly through forests and the Dracul most quickly through their dark canyons. While the rivers seem in many respects similar to rivers in mortal lands, they also loop and wander across the plains in ways that are difficult to predict. And on the twisting paths of the Shadow Realm, sometimes traveling downriver leads to places that are surely upriver if one goes by the roads. At other times, one river melds into another. This is especially true when one travels by Shadow Goblin barge or with the help of a conjured ferryman. The waters of the Styx. The River Styx is a planar waterway found flowing through many plains and varies in color, inhabitants, and even in name from realm to realm. Always, though, it carries the souls of the dead to the afterlife and binds the many planes of the multiverse together. I told you so. In the Shadow Realm, its course is rarely constant as the land itself shifts every few years. However, the creatures that make their living from it know how it runs and how to avoid dangers. River giants, shadow goblins, and shadow river lords are all relatively common among its banks, as are other creatures. For normal heroes and travelers without access to a magical ferry, travel by boat is easy enough downstream, providing a steady rate of about 5 miles an hour with the current, but travel is often confoundingly less direct than expected, with strange tributaries flowing into the river, other boats seen in perpetual mists, and various rapids, whirlpools, and backwater oxbows that lead nowhere. Encounters on river are common, usually with shadow goblins, river giants, or water fae, and more rarely with fiends or incorporeal undead. Characters must make a DC 15 Intelligence Arcana check for every day of navigation. On a success, the party has traveled as expected, and on a roll of 20, they have arrived after a single day on the water. On a failure, they have looped or dawdled, otherwise made far less progress, limited to 10 miles by the day. On a roll of 1 or 2, roll 1d12 and then consult the previous table. Is that Charon on the Wrath? It's kind of hard to say. Because they said, well, I mean, in this continuity, it doesn't have to be Charon, although Charon is probably considered the most well-known person that is crossing the river. Whoever it is, they look really nice. Yeah, that is a very good illustration. So, Charon, once again, I think, that goes back to ancient Greek mythology. The ancient Greek believers of the river Styx would believe that it was Charon that always was the one that took you from the river. Alright, so, lost lands and shifting destinations. A place as malleable and prone to revision as the Shadow Realm inevitably finds that some places are cut off from the Shadow Roads, unmoored in the currents, and are seen intermittently at best. The Driftwood villages are one example, and the city of Ashragora another. Through its improvements are fairly steady. Others are once well known but are now quite difficult to find. The Radiant Isle, the Land of Apple Blossoms, the Keep of Shadow Drakes, and the Pale Tree rise out of the Whispering Plain. All are well-known legends to umbral human, shadow fae, and others, although none are especially well fixed on a map. A few are briefly noted here as legendary locales for adventures. The Keep of the Shadow Drakes. Charon is a psychopomp, one of my favorite spiritual and religious concepts. Yeah, I agree with that. Is that it has a mythological, if not totally religious, grounding. I mean, as does the Grim Reaper. The set of black towers resembles a tangled grove of trees no more than any Fey architecture. It was raised by Nondril, an elder shadow drake, as a gift to his mate, Violanda, and it became the place of draconic power, as well as the school for mages of the traditions of shadow and illumination. At various times it has been seen on the Whispering Plains as an island in the Shade Sea, and even as a dark cloud castle floating over the hills. In all cases, dozens of drakes, dragonettes, and dragons nest there because they are the only ones capable of opening its gates and its doorways. Rumors run rampant that the Keep of Shadow Drakes is filled with the bones of 1,000 Fae, or with the grimoires of 100 mages, or with the wealth of generations of gnome and human traders. Some even believe that it commands a radiant well that is somehow harnessed to provide arcane power, just as one might tap a barrel of wine. A few claim that the whole building is inscribed in Draconic with the history of the ancients, who in this telling were shape-shifting dragons. While bones and books are found there, more often the Keep of the Shadow Drakes is a nesting ground for drakes protected by elders, and the dragons and the drakes of the Shadow Realm gather there until wormlings hatch and then depart as soon as their progeny can fly, leaving the place to some other type of draconic flock for looking in a perfect nesting site. Eggshells litter the courtyards, lending concrete evidence of this use by dragons in breeding season. The Land of Apple Blossoms. Swarming with bees and fragrant with apple blossoms in the spring, the Land of Apple Blossoms is sometimes described as an island in the sea, and at other times is a set of 5 hills and 7 villages, each inhabited by fair, kind-hearted humans and bearfolk who settled it a long time ago and wisely decided never to connect their realm to the Fae. The Land of Apple Blossoms is the subject of songs and sagas, and many of them feature its treasures: golden bees and honey of immortality, apples whose taste reverses aging and cures the sick, even berry bushes hung with jewels the size of a human thumb. and springs that run with sweet water, pure as snow, that teem with bright red salmon every autumn. Some of this is purely poets at work, but the existence of a circle of apple druids, or the guidance of Hala Berlisfand, a great druid of wisdom and kindness, are themes that often recur in tales of the land of the apple blossoms. The humans there are said to grow tall and fair, untroubled by hunger or plague. Ambrosia. Well, ambrosia could be one explanation for it. The other one would probably be, so there's ambrosia, there's also the biblical myth of the land of milk and honey, and in addition to that, I would also suggest that there's something that has to do with the Norse Valhalla, and that is probably the the fact that they had sewed in Hala Berlisfand, which actually which very well might be the keeper of the giant unlimited mead pitcher in Valhalla. So there is just a lot of potential reinterpretation of a lot of the mythology that's being used in this, which is to Kobold Press's advantage, because I think if there's one thing that I've learned from reading all of these independently published books is that there's an opportunity to get really, really, really close to the source material as with a Blight, or there's an opportunity in order to use the mythology in order to form a more sewn together and a more cogent universe, like this book has been doing. And given the fact that an enormous amount of this book tends to associate with a more generalized player guide, it's clear that's why they choose the route to go this route. They choose to handle mythology somewhat with kid gloves and the room for reinterpretation. The great druid of the land of apple blossoms can open a magical moon portal to the city of Fandival, which appears once every few years. On those occasions, a few of its young people will take its apples, pears, and other fruits to market, exchanging them for Fandival salt, spices, and other rare items. The Pale Tree Rise. The drifting village was built around a circular grove of oaks, and a single stone, sometimes thought to be one of the failed stones that Hecate placed in the waters before the founding. Indeed, the legends say it floated well and gathered earth and plants to it, though it failed to root in one place. The village itself is seen in a dozen places each year, drifting faster than most villages, and some of the faithful of Hecate consider it to be an especially propitious site, worth seeking out for the devout. Others believe that the pale tree that gives the village its name is a sign that the place is quite dangerous, unstable, and best avoided. Chaos cultists and the satyr claim the village might be a good place to unbind and unravel magic for this reason. The Radiant Isle, a secluded island located somewhere in the middle of a black lake in the south of the realm, regularly draws dozens or even hundreds of witchlights to its shores. This island can be seen from a far side of the lake thanks to the pale glow that emanates from this place. Brave souls who use magic or take a boat across the lake find a building composed of solid light nestled in an otherwise desolate rocky outcropping. Low and sprawling, the structure has a blue central dome and several white marble wings radiating from that hub. Witchlights flit across the lake and into the building, gliding through both the opaque, glowing walls. For creatures that can't pass through the light walls, a normal entrance opens into a library, but instead of books and scrolls, sheets of multicolored light are stacked atop one another in an orderly fashion. Each sheet of light contains recorded knowledge. The witchlights move about the archive a few at a time to add some of their own light to what's already there. In addition, brass and silver library automatons move along stacks, scanning the library and its visitors. Visitors that convince the automatons to help can find strange lore gathered from across the realm, even in the multiverse, stored in the archive. The library is said to connect to other storehouses of wisdom on other planes through doors limned in strange alphabets. The Leosalfar, elements composed of pure, colored light, are frequent visitors to Radiant Isle. They have a great love for patterns and a hatred of any creature that seeks to disrupt patterns of color they identify as being part of the world around them. They can offer invaluable insight on locating a specific piece of lore, but any who threaten the archive or the knowledge stored within them will inspire their wrath. Shadow landmarks and natural anchors. While Shadow Fae, Bearfolk, and others raise buildings, castles, and entire cities on the strength of foundation, stones that preserve structures in times of flux and tide, other elements of the Shadow Realm also resist the currents and motions of the ebb and tides. Shadow landmarks and natural anchors perform the same function, and as elements of the plane, they do not require arcane power to create. Instead, features of the land are notable as geographic features: white cliffs, enormous house-side boulders out on the plains, a beach of pure white sand, a set of purple dunes, or a particularly stunning mountain peak or outcropping. These sites are preserved over the years without any help from Arcanus or Fae. Instead, the memory of the Shadow Realm and its inhabitants themselves maintains them. Most are associated with names, legends, or associated figures from history. The older and more visited the site, the more resistant it becomes to damage by black water, harsh radiance, or similar natural effects. Natives of the plane call them natural anchors, places too distinctive to be washed away or to sink silently beneath each other's terrain. Okay, Chapter 6. Fae Courts and Servitors. So, I'm going to get into this chapter. So I'm going to read as much as I possibly can until we get to 50 minutes to the hour, and then I'm going to sign off. So it's very likely also that I'm going to finish reading this after part 4. And the simple reason for that is that we've begun to consistently approach like 100 pages for every single one of these player's guides. And since I've been seeking an opportunity to, still get people to continue to read, I do want to read like up to 100 pages so people can get a very thorough idea of how the realm operates, and then from that point forward, people that are curious enough will more than likely, end up going to DriveThruRPG and downloading the book. Considering how dang long these things get, and there are so many more books to read. These are wonderful teasers. Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. I'm also just a little bit personally concerned because very specifically because of our reading of The Blight. And so The Blight was a very thorough book, but it was also one that kind of went back and it restated itself in multiple points because it just effectively started to develop an omnibus system. And just a situation in which that it just kind of started to read as though it was several modules that were cobbled together in order to make the great big encyclopedic version of the one setting. So that's something that I might want to avoid in the immediate future. So this is our new rule, just up to 100 pages for any book. And probably, towards the end of the Book of Ebon Tides Part 4, I will once again, throw up the poll and ask everybody that is currently in chat at the time which one of the next books that we should read. Yeah, it sounds like a good rule. All right. Fae Courts and Servitors. The Shadow Realm has always been the most closely associated with the Fae, who use it as a source of magic and magical transportation, long before they learned to make warded foundation stones and to settle it. Their courts resemble those of the elves of Selendora, the Summer Lands, in their overall size and organization, but with a darker cast and often with far more gnomes, goblins, and humans. The Shadow Fae themselves has always been relatively few in number, though the promises of a power and ability to enchant and control mortal rulers has given them the ability to pull entire cities into shadow. What is the Fae Court? A Fae Court is roughly similar to a human fiefdom, a land ruled by a noble or monarch, their ruler embodying its people and attracting like-minded Fae to their court. A small court, for instance, might style itself the Baron's Court of Millrun and rule over a handful of villages along a stream. A large court, such as the Court of Night and Magic, might have lesser courts that pay it fealty, ruled by a queen, and command entire cities, forests, and small armies. A dozen major courts and several minor ones are described here. More certainly exist, and new ones could be founded by any fey-bloodied inhabitants of the Shadow Realm who lay claim to existing lands and castles, who can master the Ebon tides to make their own lands and castles from nothing. Any fey can found a court, though only the most powerful or charismatic seem to have success in growing them from a backwater named Frog Manor to a widely popular court of emeralds. Shadow Fae, Shadow Goblins, Lunar Elves, Sable Elves, Weird Gnomes, Quick Steps, Living Stars, and even Trollkin, and sometimes Half-Elves, have all ruled Fae courts. Bearfolk, Dracul, Halflings, Allseed, Ravenfolk, Satar, Shades, and Humans are sometimes members of court, but are not eligible to be a founder or a ruler of one. Rules for styling oneself a title, and naming the court itself are arcane even by Fae standards. A new court, for instance, might take a poorly modest name such as Lilypad Manor, the Court of Cherries, or the Court of Three Bridges, ruled by a Lord Later Keeper. In time, the court might grow and become the Court of Ruby Blossoms or the Court of the Silent River, ruled by a princess, a marquis, or a count. Such names can be proposed yet fail to become accepted by the members of court if a ruler judges their own advancement too generously. When other Fae refuse to acknowledge a new place name, it may easily become a mark against the quote-unquote upstart court, and the court's popularity might wither. Okay, changelings at court. This is the last section I'm going to read. Many Fae courts have a tradition of hosting changelings, which they see as an honorable tradition of fostering the children of various non-Fae races among themselves. To the parents of kidnapped children who become changeling, the matter is somewhat different. These human children are stolen away as infants, taught Elvish, Umbral, and other refined languages, and their demeanor and personalities changed to match what their Shadow Fae, Gnomish, or Sable Elvish parents. Note that the Fae do not choose to adopt Dragonborn, Dwarves, Kobolds, Tieflings, or Trollkin as changelings, and they consider the various animal folk such as Alseeds, Catfolk, Ravenfolk, or Subek as half-Fae already. Kidnapped halflings generally become courtly servants. Changeling player characters can use the changeling variant race for Umbral humans, which provides rules which govern their abilities. So, I think, this book had provided a concept for Umbral humans and changelings that specifically worked within the lore of the Book of Ebon Tides, and this is effectively the explanation for why they exist within this realm in this very specific form. Once again, unlike, the at-large Dungeons & Dragons 5e, which considers all changelings to be characters in great, that name is escaping me now. Spelljammer. Alright, so that's going to be the end of the reading for tonight. We're going to go on and we're going to do part 4, and part 4 is probably going to conclude our reading of the Book of Ebon Tides. Thank you everybody once again for tuning in to Brainy the RPG Cat. This has probably been, it's great to get back to this particular segment because we took a week off. And we actually added an additional week to last week's stream schedule, and where we still just didn't get the opportunity in order to read a book. So I'm very glad that, we were able to do it this week. So I am going to I am definitely going to be back this coming Saturday. And this coming Saturday, we are going to be playing Pokemon TCG Live. And so this is part of a new commitment that we're trying to make, wherein we play at least one MMO and one TCG game every single week. So you've had a really nice schedule going, all the new games, doing the old stuff. Yeah, it's been fun. It has definitely been fun. And, and a lot of games that were originally on the Game Boy Advance, but that's just because I tend to really, really like those. Alright, so once again, thank you very much to our sponsors, Dubby Energy Drink. Be sure to go to dubby.ge. Be sure to go to dubby.gg and use the code BrainySentMe for 10% off your order online. And also, streamloots. For $1.99, get a pack of 3 brainy streamloots cards, which you can use to redeem in order to use special effects here in the chat room. So also be sure to join our Discord page. Discord link is currently in the chat and also down below in the chat section. Join us on Discord. We've got a lot of really neat stuff and a lot of really interesting conversations going. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm going to take a moment and I am going to do a raid. Let's see, who do I want to oh, what is it? OS Devon has purchased 1 chest. Thank you very much, OS Devon. So as I said, if we can only get, a few people to pay the $1.99 for 3 Streamloots cards, then we would have the opportunity in order to keep this stream very well funded. So thank you to everybody for every contribution that they can make. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's head over to Twitch. Let's decide who we're going to raid. Let me see. Bo Sheep is on. So is Eldritch Grandpa. Mrs. Mothmom. Power Nelson is currently playing Street Fighter 6, which is, I believe that currently there's an open beta going on for that game. I'm probably not interested enough in order to play the open beta, but it certainly might be something that's worth watching. That's our Lockman playing Dead by Daylight. All right, so yeah, let's go over to Power Nelson right now. Yeah, he is in the middle of playing Street Fighter 6, so let's go ahead and let's head over to that channel. So once again, thank you everybody for watching. As usual, remember that BRAINY means smart. Nothing's too hard if you use your head. Have a good night, everybody, and thank you very much for watching.